Boom! Now we can try it. Jesus Christ.
Oh, man, this is nobody knows this, but the inside backstory here is that we've had a hard time getting this week's podcast up and going. So
never get this episode off the ground.
I know, man.
Jesus.
We've had to stop a couple times and had a little bit of technical difficulty. I think we're okay now.
So you're the shitty transition is shit.
Yeah, I'm sick of this shit. Just get the fuck out. Pack your stuff up. Take your criminal friends with you and get
his henchmen
out. Take his henchmen with him. Oh my God! On the upside, on the bright side, what a pleasure it's been to watch President Biden put together a cabinet with actual qualified people instead of, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe him. I don't have any witty, punchy description for the cast of nitwits and nincompoops that he's had in there as cabinet and secretaries and all the rest of it. So there's my opening.
I thought we were over the hill, though, too, because, we commented, I think, last week that Trump was behaving for him and saying that he was going to leave and the transition would be good. And then he turns around and has this Georgia rally, and now we're back to square one.
And Georgia rally, and then he did a 45-minute video that nobody needed, in which he displayed symptoms of deep mental illness. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, and the things he's saying, Travis, they get more outlandish every day.
What was I read something about it, but where was the video posted?
Well, it was carried by Fox.
Oh, so it was a Fox interview or something?
No, it was a videotaped address from the White House, complete with charts and props and nonsense. It was just him talking his nonsensical shit about how the election was stolen from him. And
that was this week.
That was this week. The fraudulent claims contained in this 45-minute video, it's hard to believe. I mean, and after everything we've been through, nothing should be hard to believe, but it just gets worse every day. I don't know if he's losing his goddamn mind, if he's, if the stress of the whole thing is getting to be too much for him. I just don't know if he's off his meds or what. And then the whole Republican Party, I mean, to quote Lindsey Graham, they've all gone batshit crazy. How have they not abandoned this stupid motherfucker by now?
I read something about this interview that was crazy. Maybe this is the same one that you're talking about, and nobody else would play it. So maybe it's the same one because it was on Fox?
Yeah, Fox played it on Waters World is the program that it was on when he was doing it live. So, oh my God. And then I think, I might even be getting that confused with the rally, right? He had a rally.
He had a rally in Georgia, yes.
That was on Fox. That's right. That was on Waters World on Fox.
Well, that's why again, we thought we were over the hump where he was talking about he was going to be a big boy and he was going to leave. I knew there was a Georgia rally, which part of that was flying in the face of the new COVID restrictions where the whole world is back on lockdown. But he had a totally different demeanor between what he was saying at those White House press interviews about leaving and then when he takes the stage at his rallies. I mean, it's just like a different Trump,
That's crazy, man.
You want to hear some of him?
Yeah, let's hear some of it. That'll inspire me.
Well, I don't have the interview, but this is the rally.
At stake in this election is control of the U.S. Senate, and that really means control of this country. The voters of Georgia will determine which party runs every committee, writes every piece of legislation, controls every single taxpayer dollar. Very simply, you will decide whether your children will grow up in a socialist country or whether they will grow up in a free country.
So he's talking about the Georgia runoff there, the two Senate races in January. But you can tell even there he's on script. He's reading his teleprompter, which
I think he's on drugs.
But who knows?
Well, that what I did hear him say either before that or after that was he told the audience, "Hey, I want to talk about the presidency." Me, but I have to talk about these two bumpkins that are in this runoff here.
He said that? I didn't hear it.
Yeah, but I got to talk about them because that's why I'm here. But then we'll talk about them real quick. Then we'll get back to the president.
Well, and the Republicans are saying we don't need your help. We don't want your help. Don't come here. Don't.
Are they?
I think they said
I
that.
would.
Yeah.
If I was any kind of Republican down ballot kind of governor, senator, congressman, dog catcher, butt washer, I would be getting the fuck away from President Crazy Pants as fast as possible. He's losing his mind.
I like all the names that you're calling him, but I can tell there's a different look on your face, certainly, and a different tone because you know it's short term and he's going to be out of here. But
I'm happy.
You can tolerate.
I'm happy.
You can tolerate him for another couple weeks, right? You want to hear it? You want to hear?
You don't know how much damage he. Let's hear some more. Boy, we had a tough connection today.
Yeah, we're losing you again, but
they cheated and they rigged our presidential election, but we will still win it. I don't run the elections. I don't run to see if people are walking in with suitcases and putting them under a table with a black robe around it. I don't do that. That's up to your government here. And for whatever reason, your Secretary of State and your governor are afraid of Stacey Abrams. They're afraid of her.
So he's,
hey, look, I'm Roger Stone.
You look stoned.
Stacey Abrams.
He's off his rocker.
Worst nightmare, man. That chick came in there. When all is said and done, she turned Georgia, but Georgia wasn't single-handedly responsible for the Electoral College victory. That was Pennsylvania.
Yeah, right.
But you got to give her credit because there's no way that Georgia should have voted for Biden. And if either of the Democratic contenders in this runoff, if either or both of them win, it'll also be due to her efforts at organizing in that state. So, and she's the one that ran for governor and got fucked by Governor Kim, who now Trump has been spending the week throwing his ass under the bus because he won't illegally reverse the election. I mean, it's so ridiculous, Travis.
Well,
this is sedition. We spent so much of. I know I'm talking a lot, but I'm kind of wound up from all this anticipatory waiting.
Yeah, wind yourself up, man.
Well, here's the thing: we listen to so much horseshit about collusion, right? Ooh, the Trump campaign colluded with the Russians. Collusion was like the worst thing we could think of, right? This is full-blown sedition, right? And collusion is like jaywalking, as sedition is like first-degree murder, right? So, I mean, it is just, and I just hope he keeps going till there's enough stuff to where no attorney general will have a choice but to go back and get him afterwards.
Well, how are they going to do that if he pardons himself? You reading this story?
Yeah, I think it's highly unlikely that he's going to be able to pardon himself.
You think he's going to try, though?
But we'll see.
I wouldn't put it past him.
He'll just do it. I hereby pardon myself for everything, no matter what I did. Remember that guy was going to shoot on 7th Avenue and get away with it? I shot him, too.
It is wild, dude. It really is. I mean, if you think about the last couple of months, and we talked about this early on, we both get really hyped up during the election season, if you want to call it that, because, it brings out, the craziness in people. And there's a lot at stake, and this year in particular, because we've had the evil orange man in office. And then, you and I get lost in the weeds as far as, party lines and, which group is going to do right for the country. I've never been a Trump fan, never thought he was good for our country. Of course, I don't like a lot of the proposals, most of the proposals that the Democrats are spewing.
I will say it always seemed like you always gave me the impression, though, that you would be happy to endure more years of this horseshit with him than whatever it is you perceive that the problems are with, say, the Biden-Harris ticket. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting observation. I would say I was more willing to endure 4 more years of a Trump presidency if there was a way to not have Trump. In other words, I just get so crazy with all the shit that the Democrats are coming up with that I think are bad for this country. All the fiscal policy and the free shit and everything that their party turned into, which maybe this is a chance for them to come back to center with Biden, like we've talked about. Maybe there's an opportunity for them to shed some of the crazy left, shit that's going on in the party. But I will have to say that now that the clock is winding down, it is refreshing. Even though I don't agree with a lot of the stuff Biden and Harris say, looking at their picks, how they're going about it surgically in their cabinet positions, and they're taking it seriously, it is refreshing to see somebody presidential, after 4 years of chaos. And I have a confession to make. Over the weekend, I was, going across YouTube like I normally do and, sample my usual selection of airplane crash videos and everything else. And I found a lot of stuff on Hillary that I ended up watching. And even Hillary, I found her to be, I almost missed her in the sense that she was certainly human and humane and presidential and experienced. I didn't agree with a lot of her shit either. I remember one thing in particular. Many, many things pissed me off about her, but at the height of it, when she was running 4 years ago against Trump, as usual in this country with gun violence and everything else, she was basically talking about how she would support legislation that if somebody was killed with a gun, then the gun manufacturer of that particular gun could also be held liable.
Yeah, I remember that. Which
I think is just horseshit and stupid. And to this day, I think it's stupid. And it's analogous to if you run into a crowd of people in a Toyota Prius that somehow Toyota is at fault. They're not. It doesn't make any sense at all. So a lot of that shit is just like, come on, you can do better than that. But after 4 years, it's kind of a non-issue at this point. But I remember going back and I was watching some video of her, and she just sounded more human than I remember. Everyone painted her to be evil, but I came across a really long interview that she did with Howard Stern. Of course, all his interviews are good, but he had a lot of time with her to talk about things other than politics. And you know what? If I could go back and do it again, I would rather have her the last 4 years instead of Biden now, and maybe we'd have her for another 4 years.
Would we have had her for another? That's possible. If she had won and was it all successful over the last 4 years, there's a strong possibility she would win again. Here's one of the facts I like the best. You really have to be a fuck up to lose the presidency, right? To be a sitting president and then it's hard to unseat a sitting president, right? That doesn't happen very often. So he's got even more to be ashamed of, right? In his words, the worst candidate in the world kicked his fucking ass in the next month.
Well, he always said, imagine if I lose to this guy. I'll have to go into hiding.
Yeah, well, I was always imagining it. Now I don't have to imagine it.
Well, there was a time where that was unimaginable, and certainly before it was clear that Biden was going to be the front runner. But it became easier to imagine once things unfolded.
I think because for me, I'm one of the people that have for a long time I am just, so sick of having that idiot represent the United States, especially to other countries, especially in world politics. If this wasn't also out in the open and we weren't being so publicly humiliated every time that fucking twerp opens his mouth, I really wouldn't care that much because, to be honest with you, you cocksuckers out there voted him in, not me. I didn't vote for Trump. So, and I know you didn't either, Travis. You voted for another nearly as qualified candidate. But it's the damage on the world stage, and so for me, I was just, God, just to hear someone make a remark on a world situation or on the COVID or on anything, and to have it be calm, intelligently thought through discourse and not hyperbolic fucking nonsense and drivel that comes out of Cheeto's mouth all the time.
That's a good observation.
It's not the big beautiful COVID. You know what I'm saying? So,
Well, and I've said this before too. He was never a very good communicator. His vocabulary isn't very large. He doesn't have a lot of words he can go to. But he just, when he was out there, he did make a fool of himself and the rest of the country. And that's a good observation. I think those are the types of things that you miss from a world leader. And as I was digging through my, airplane crash videos over the weekend, I came across this other clip I want to play for you, and it's back when you just mentioned, when a president only serves 4 years and gets unseated, it's pretty uncommon. But it happened, I guess, most recently, in 92?
Bush.
Bush Sr. with Clinton. And there's this kind of tradition where the outgoing president leaves a letter in the desk of the Oval Office for the new president to come in. I can only imagine if Trump leaves a letter, what that's going to say.
Oh, man.
But I got this clip of Clinton talking about the letter that H.W. left for him.
Let's hear it.
Ronald Reagan established a tradition among outgoing presidents to leave a handwritten note for their successors. When you arrived back to the White House, in the Oval Office, after becoming president, you found in the iconic Resolute desk in the Oval Office a handwritten note from George Bush. Mr. President, I wonder, would you mind reading a part of that note?
Yeah, I love that letter.
Here.
It said, I wish you great happiness here. There will be tough times made even more difficult by criticism you may not think is fair. I'm not a very good one to give advice, but just don't let the critics discourage you or push you off course. You will be our president when you read this note. I wish you well. I wish your family well. Your success is our country's success. I'm rooting hard for you.
How did you feel when you received that letter?
I thought it was vintage George Bush. I thought he meant it, but I also thought he was trying to be a citizen in the highest sense of the word. Mm-hmm. It was profoundly moving to me personally.
What a man, huh?
Yeah, that was, those times are maybe coming back. I mean, I just think that, I think there was an appetite to blow up some of the norms. I think Trump, figured that out early and seized on it like the opportunistic pig that he is.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully it's over now. I think a warning to all of my fellow Democrats and non-Trump supporters. I mean, I don't know, will the guy live long enough? But once he finally gets the fuck out of the White House, we got to make sure he never comes back for nothing.
Well,
not even for a visit. Even if he left his underwear in the drawer, just mail it to him. Have the Secret Service drop it off at his house.
Well, he's saying, get the 2024 campaign going, right?
You know what? If it looks like he's going to run in 2024,
you're going to run away.
I will retire and devote my life to making sure that doesn't happen.
Well,
really don't want a 66-year-old white guy that's fed up.
Are you 66?
I'm 64 now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, it could be like 66 by the time going to have to give it a couple of years to see if it's serious. I mean, he could have a stroke or any number of things could happen to him before he announces for 2024. Although I think that short of that, it's just going to start immediately. He's going to run and he's going to start campaigning now. So all through the Biden presidency, get ready, Travis, because you're going to have these fucking Trump rallies are never going to stop because his people are like, they just want the hats and the signs and they just want to go and super spread. I'm sure they have hot dogs. And,
so do you think
fried pig skin and all the rest of the shit they have at these things? And I don't think they give a fuck what he says, to be honest with you. We've already talked about this. And you think, oh, no, they're all there and in rapt attention. I think once all that shit starts, they start leaving to, make sure they're out of the parking lot before the crowd.
I definitely think there's a core that is his base and will, follow him and support him. I think that will only diminish as we move further away from the election. I think what we saw was, to try to push him over the edge. But it'll be interesting to see how that continues and if the demand is still there, because I do think there's a group of people that really do believe that the country is changing and it's being taken from them, and Trump is the only thing to save, their way of life and what they hold, valuable and near and dear. So is it just election hype? I don't know. We'll see. But do you really think he's got the stamina to continue? Basically, it would be a 4-year campaign, right? Do you think he's really going to do that?
Well, I mean, he just finished a 4-year campaign. He won the election in 2016 somehow, and can only assume God was asleep that day. And he never stopped. He never stopped having rallies. Everything. He never stopped talking about Hillary or Obama, neither of which were people that he was ever going to run against again. And he just likes the campaign. I mean, he's only in this to get up there on stage and do that shit. That's the only reason he's even here. And this actually may just be perfect for him. If he can go another 4 years, and I don't know how old.
Uh-oh. We're losing you again. You don't know how old he is. We've come to the part of the show where we've lost Mike's internet connection.
Well, while you were gone and I wasn't sure what was going on, I was talking directly to our listeners and saying, "Hey, you guys are sending this scam artist millions and millions and millions of dollars,
and one more million
to fight his. Soon to be $1 billion, soon to fight his. To theoretically pay for this fight to overturn this election, which can't happen. So." But what the money is going for is he's using it to pay down campaign costs. You're just giving this piece of shit money. He's supposedly a billionaire. So whether you're a Trump supporter or you're not, I still like you as a human being. And I hate to see you give away your money in such large amounts to this opportunistic scam artist.
Do you know anybody personally who's given money away?
No, I'm afraid that if I knew that somebody in my family or in my orbit was sending money to Trump, I'd have to have a serious fucking talk with him. I can tell you that. I mean, I got a feeling, there might be somebody, but I don't know. Whatever. You want to give me your money, give it to him. What the fuck do I don't care. Right. So
I gotta, since I've been on these clip frenzies, I gotta play this other one for you about just finish with Hillary, because we always say we knew who Trump was and he warned us who he was, but I got this other clip, and this story this story was in the news, if you remember, at the inauguration, and there was one time early on that I felt Trump was presidential, and that was his first State of the Union address, which he largely stayed on script, and for the first time, we saw a different Trump from the campaign and the debates, where he had to, brush off the, locker room talk stuff and fighting with Hillary, and then he was presidential and he was following the script. I'm not saying. No, I don't have that.
Is this him?
No.
Oh, okay.
What I'm saying is that was the one and only time that he sounded presidential. But go all the way back to the inauguration. His speech was kind of wild, and so here's how Hillary describes it.
I'm going to be the president of everyone, those who supported me and those who did.
What she's saying is this is basically what you should say. And so this is 4 years ago. She's thinking this.
Right.
When you win, you got to be the president for everyone, which is what Biden is saying now. He's largely on that on that trail. And even though if you didn't support me, blah blah blah. That's what she's saying that you were supposed to hear from Trump at his inauguration, but you didn't.
Because we're going to pull the country together. I'd hope that I would hear a little of that. I didn't hear any of that. And then that carnage in the street and the dark dystopian vision. I was sitting there like just, wow, couldn't believe it. And George W. Bush says to me, well, that was some weird shit.
So I remember reading about that story a while back, but I guess we kind of knew, right?
Well, I mean, some of us did and some of us didn't. But everybody knows now, unless you're I don't know how you don't know. I mean, but I know people that are in love with them. I can't remember how much of this we talked about last time, but I'm still kind of I still am a little bit I don't understand. This bothers me, I think, more than anything. I don't understand how some people that I know are such avid supporters of Trump and that whole viewpoint and all of the drivel and the nonsense on Fox News, the straight up lies, the straight up lying, and yet I know. So when I see people buying that hogwash, people that I don't know, I can just assume they're morons and move along. But when I see people that I know in real life that seem to be buying into it, I'm just a little bit lost.
You think they're in mourning?
Disturbing.
You think it really is just about a loss and they're in mourning?
I think it's just hard to say, right? I mean, I think that some people are so afraid of how the world might go that they absolutely, I'm trying to think of the right word for this. They absolutely subjugate their actual morals and say, yeah, this will be okay, because it's like, hey, even though Trump and his cadre of what's the word we like to use?
Henchmen?
His henchmen, Trump and his henchmen, the people, the really, really bad people that are in his orbit in that administration, Stephen Miller and the son-in-law and the daughter for that matter. And, just so many of these people that are so dangerous, and in Trump himself, who is an amoral criminal con man. And yet I see people that are so afraid of the progressive agenda or the changes that could possibly come, that they are willing to support a complete asshole like Donald Trump. And I don't understand it. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well,
Travis?
that's well said. I mean, that's exactly, I think, the crux of the issue is that people are so afraid of the alternative that they voted this guy in. And it's like what Paul Ryan said at the time. The Republicans have to hold their nose and just, allow this guy to come in because he's the only option at this point.
When is that guy coming back?
I don't know. He would be somebody to, breathe a breath of fresh air on things, right?
I think that might be the fact that Donald Trump, prior to Donald Trump coming into my political consciousness, Paul Ryan is probably one of the people I hated the most. Paul Ryan and McConnell, just both of them, fucking hate them both. And now I could almost live with Ryan after this mess,
Well, I think he's kind of done, right? His political career. What's he doing?
Well, I don't know. All he ever stood for was a massive tax cut, and once that was accomplished, he bailed. Hey, goodbye.
Yeah,
I'm out of here before this fucking moron self-explodes, which he didn't actually do, but he very well could have. I think he's been so close to the edge of full-blown criminality. And it's not over. It's just not over. And he is trailing very close now to crossing some lines that might be difficult. You know what? You might not be able to be prosecuted while you're the sitting president, but if you leave a future Democratic Attorney General in a position where he has no choice but to prosecute you because of the things you did, because you were so overt and over the top and you do it and put it out there as a challenge, if you leave him no choice, they probably will prosecute him, right? And I don't give a shit. I'd love to see Trump in jail. I think that's where he belongs. I'd like to see him go in there until he dies.
Well, so far, there really hasn't been a lot of chatter about that. But I want to go back to something you just said, which is, the why and the how. And I really think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that the Democrats and the progressive wing of the Democrats were spewing out some crazy shit that it frightened a lot of people. It frightened me. And I think maybe this is a time for them to reflect, which I think they're doing to a large extent, to say, hey, we got to come back to center and figure out in the spirit of compromise, which is really what this country's system is based on, a series of compromise that we can come together and figure out what works what works for both sides. Because short of that, if we end up going to this progressive side of what the Democrats are spewing, we're fucked. It's dangerous.
I don't think that there's much of a chance of that. I mean, there's always going to be some part of the Democrat Party that is pushing for those, the very far left progressive, issues, but somebody's always pushing for that, and so Biden is certainly not that guy. I mean, he's not going out. I'm trying to think. I don't know those things that you talk about that you're so afraid of. I don't know them by heart as much as I probably should or probably will in the near future. But I don't think that's Biden. And for the time being, Harris is a vice president. So really,
for a very short time being,
she can do nothing, right? She doesn't push anything. She's not setting the agenda. That's all Biden.
I'm a little worried about that. I told you this before, how much she's, how vocal she is and how much she's tweeting with, she's going to have to take a back seat here. You're number 2, lady, not number 1.
Well, I'm not watching her tweets because every time I look at the Couch Funeral Twitter account, it's just you bitch talking Harris, which is fine. That's
I don't bitch talk her,
that's
but
a good place for it.
Most of the shit that really gets me going and what I end up commenting on is COVID stuff and the economy. That really fucking boils my blood, where there's this talking point from the Democrats and from Biden and from Harris where we got to do more for the economy and they're urging for the stimulus to pass. And then when they say things like, we're in the worst economic crisis this country has ever faced and we've got to act now. Wait a minute, lady. First of all, that was avoidable. That was man-made. It didn't need to happen, and it was mostly caused by the people on the left.
Plan out your speech, because I'm just gonna let you run with this because I don't agree with any of it. So just go.
Well, you don't have to agree, but it is true. And when you look at things like, no, seriously, this is where Trump was criticized all the way back in April when he was saying we're going to open things up by Easter, where Trump was criticized for not trying to induce a national mask mandate. Democratic governors were the first to close their states. And that whole idea of a closure and the economic devastation, number one, it was avoidable. It didn't have to happen. And number 2, that was done by mostly people in their party. So when they say things like, we're going to be the saviors, that's what fucking gets me going. You can disagree.
That's because you want to give Trump a pass on mishandling the worst health crisis this country's ever seen. And if you want to invoke the Spanish flu, then let me just put in the caveat that this country's seen in the last 100 years. But I think for all things, for all intents and purposes, for what could have been, how this could have been handled, for the lives that could have been saved, this is the worst. Well, and he's totally responsible for it. Totally. He's the fucking president of the United States. Right. And he doesn't care, Travis. And we know that he hasn't spoken about it or done anything except fuck it up since the election. And, it's really the only responsibility he has left. And he's abdicating it so he can run around with this crazy election bullshit while people are just, I don't have all the numbers memorized, but they're pretty high.
How dare you?
Right? Huh?
How dare you?
Yeah. Well, they're pretty high. The amount of people that are contracting COVID on a daily basis, whether you break it down in the whole country or state by state in different places, and the amount of people that, you can continue, you and anybody else that wants to can continue to just shirk off 280,000 dead Americans, and say, well, all but 3% of them were going to die anyway, which is just total fucking nonsense. And you can do that, but that they're dead. Okay. So, we are having a goddamn 9/11 every day.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when I say things like we need to kill off the old people so we can save Social Security, there's definitely a model there that I think someone should look at. I'm joking, but listen, there's some math there that I think holds up. But, you know, I think what I'm trying to say is this isn't for me. I'm not trying to give Trump a pass like I'm trying to say, here's something he did well, right? That's not what I'm saying on the COVID thing. I just happen to agree with that stance that we need to be left alone. I've said from day one, it's not government's job to save us from a virus. It's government's job to protect our rights of the Constitution. That's the difference.
I don't have a business that's being shut down. I don't even the work that I continue to do is not affected by this. So.
And that's the thing. Care. That's there's a lot of that in the news. There was a story in L.A. So here we are in California. We're basically under lockdown. The entire state again. But there was a story about a restaurant owner in L.A. who, I feel for these people, but she put this video out where she invested in the outdoor tents and the tables and the heaters and all the stuff that they were told that they had to do to comply with the regulation of having outdoor dining. And most recently, I think it was Sunday night, right, that everybody has to, now we can't have outdoor dining. And she had this in the parking lot. It was somewhere in L.A. And she had this set up in the parking lot where her restaurant is. And then literally in the other stall across from her,
20 feet away,
was another outdoor dining hall set up by a movie studio.
Yeah, craft services.
And they were allowed to set that up for whatever the production is, whatever the hell they're doing. I mean, you look at that and you have to scratch your head and go, what the fuck? How is that essential?
That is the bureaucracy. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm any kind of fan of runaway bureaucracy. The fact that it happens, the fact that she shut down, that needs to happen, right? The fact that there's a screw up in the bureaucracy that allows a movie company to run craft services 20 feet away from where they shut her shit down. Two things don't have anything to do with each other than that's a shame for both of them. I mean, it's not that she should be allowed to open. That craft services shit should be shut down. And the people making these movies can bring their fucking lunch or they can fuck off. I don't really care. It's just a limited time, and that's just a huge business, dick sucking mayor yoga pants.
That's exactly what it is. This guy's trying to be in Hollywood, but yeah, I mean, I have always said I don't think those places need to be shut down. And if you read all of the experts, what they're saying is there are a few places where the virus is spreading: churches, restaurants. So that is identified as an area where, you could potentially get this thing. But it's incumbent upon each of us to make that decision. If we want to go in there, we should be able to go in there. It's not the fucking government's job to tell us otherwise.
I don't agree, and I don't.
I know you don't, and I'm not trying to change your mind.
You go in there and get a bunch of people infected because you're shedding the virus, and those people end up in the hospital, right? And when I have non-COVID related,
you fall and break your hip,
heart failure or something, I can't get in the fucking hospital.
Well, I mean, again, it's, I want to play this other clip too, and I'm not trying to change your mind, but if you look at where we are with this whole thing, it just is fucking mind-numbing to me. And so I think more and more people are agreeing with me, specifically business owners, because that's really all that's been in the news in the last couple of days is businesses aren't complying. And they've said they've had enough.
There's a couple that aren't complying. Let's be real.
It's regional. This is the other thing that really I think is stupid. The whole issue of shutdowns.
Just more white, self-important pieces of shit that think that everything is for their benefit and they don't give a crap about anybody else.
What do you mean?
Just what I said. You want me to re-say it?
Yeah. Who's more white and doesn't give a shit about anybody else? The business owners?
These people that we've seen that are refusing to comply with the regulations and so forth. And, I'm keeping my business open because, it's part of my freedom to be able to serve beer and French fries. It's fucking nonsense.
It's
right?
not nonsense. I don't think they're doing it to say it's part of their freedom and they're trying to defy just to be defiant.
I get that
they're doing it because they're not going to survive.
Well, who gives a shit? That's
Come
just the
on.
way
I mean,
it goes.
There isn't.
Travis, that's the way it goes. That's an unforeseen market situation, right? And there's a public health component here, right? We're not just talking about some arbitrary regulatory change that happened for no reason.
We are.
Right?
You want to hear my take on that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Number one, the regions that Governor Dictator here in California segmented California into, he calls Southern California. It goes all the way up to like San Luis Obispo. Those of us who live in California, that's not fucking Southern California. So the whole idea is he's carved up the state into whatever it is, 4 or 5 regions. And the shutdowns are based on ICU capacity in these regions. So you take an entire region that from San Luis Obispo down to San Diego is considered Southern California, and I think half, maybe more than half the state's population falls in that region. So number one, that's to me not a precise way to cut this thing up. But we're monitoring ICU capacity in that region to make the decision to shut things down. And what his big thing was, as soon as ICU capacity falls below, 15%? Then we're in critical mass and blah, blah, blah. Well, this is what I've said all along. ICUs are like businesses. They don't ever run at 0% capacity waiting for a catastrophe. They always run at almost max capacity. And they always run between 80 or 90% capacity in non-COVID times. So, I'm not a mathematician, but if they run between 80 and 90, if they're running at 80, doesn't that leave 20% capacity? And if they're running at 90%, doesn't that leave 10% capacity? So split the difference, that's 15 as an average. Aren't we always there? So I don't understand the logic there.
I have no idea, to be honest.
Did I lose you? Am I gazintas?
No. I mean, I don't know if any of that is the case. I'll be happy to take your word for it, but I don't know that that's the issue. I mean, the way, it appears to me that if you're out in, Ventura or, I'm trying to think of some of those places up there, they don't have as many hospitals. They're not going to have as many beds. And typically what would happen in a health crisis in that area is they'd ship those people down to greater LA. But hey, guess what? There are no beds in greater LA. There's not going to be any place for these people to go.
Well, that's the
thing.
The conspiracy theorist in me, the conspiracy theorist in me, that's what I'm watching. I think that this is all virtue signaling. And they wanted to close us down before Thanksgiving. All the health people and the governors and mayors, everybody else who's buying into this, they didn't want people to travel. And I think the Thanksgiving travel holiday was the largest travel holiday in the U.S. since COVID started, right? Since March.
Yeah.
And I think the Sunday after Thanksgiving had
It was a fraction of what it is usually, but
of course,
still...
yes. But it had the highest number of people going through TSA checkpoints since March. And that's what they wanted to avoid. We were told, you can't travel. You're irresponsible. Yeah. You can't do it.
Well, and we haven't even seen the effect of
that's what
the
that's
traveling.
What they say. But that's what they wanted to try to avoid, is for people to travel. And they're saying that we haven't seen what's going to happen to the ICUs based on that travel yet. It's coming in the next days and weeks.
Something we as a people have just lost the ability to make any kind of sacrifice for the public good. There's been a sea change. We're more what's the right terminology? We don't give a shit about our fellow citizens as a group anymore. In past crises, not just health crises, but world wars, just all kinds of examples, Americans have always been brought together by crisis and has been amazing amounts of sacrifice for the greater good, for whatever that greater good might be. That's not happening this time at all. There's a few reasons for that. One, as a people, we're different. We have no shared culture, no shared history. And in our federal elected officials, namely the Trump administration, what they could have done, Travis, that they didn't do, was try to keep people focused on making some mild sacrifices to try to keep these numbers low, to try to save virtually, probably hundreds of thousands of lives, and none of that happened, and nobody gives a shit.
But but I think that
250, 250,000 people are dead.
I think that the part about what you just said about Trump and his agency goes back to the first comment that you made, which is that we're just different as a people. And here's what I believe is there's nothing that he could have done. I think there's
no. He seized on that and purposely aggravated it.
Yeah,
to make it worse.
That's true. He poured fuel on the fire. But here's what I'm trying to get at is...
and that's why he's responsible for this.
He's not responsible, and here's why. It's the first point you just made, is that we're different as a people. It has nothing to do with Trump. And Biden is now coming out and saying, I want 100 days of masks. That's what I'm going to ask each American, to be patriotic and to make that sacrifice like you're saying. I don't think he can legally enforce it. I think there was some talk about that.
I don't think he's trying to legally enforce it.
I understand, but here's my point. If Trump had taken that position, which is what you're saying, he should have exercised some leadership and not put fuel on the fire and blah, blah, blah. There's a million things he could have said. It's just words.
He didn't do any of them.
No, but it's just words. Nobody would have done it.
Words matter, dude.
Yeah, but if I tell
Especially
you...
when they're coming out of the fucking face of the President of the United States.
I understand words matter, but what I'm saying is it wouldn't have had an impact. People would have done what they were going to do anyway.
You know that people, during the Second World War, people voluntarily agreed to drop the speed limit to 35 miles an hour to save rubber so it could go for the military effort during the Second World War. You think what do you think the chance of that would be now?
Nothing. We got to burn rubber on our gas guzzlers.
250,000 people are dead and nobody's willing to do a fucking thing.
Well, and here's why.
None of these small business guys, none of the people, none of the whiny little fucks that, don't want to wear their mask, none of that. Nobody's willing to do anything, right?
And it's because they care. I really do think they care, but I think it's because, everybody who's calling for sacrifice and everybody in, an official capacity, they're still getting paid. And, I've yet to see anybody forego a salary. Our fucking governor got caught, calling for a 10% cut in state salaries for California, except he didn't take a cut and blamed it on some computer error. But the point is this, it's easier to call for that when you're still getting paid. And I really think, you might see more patriotism from people if you go all the way back to the beginning and there was some national effort to try to give people money and then force their businesses to close, but literally free money to say, hey, you can, you'll have this money as a safety net to survive because you're going to be closed for a while. So, that didn't happen.
Well, that would all be good. I have no argument with you that both sides of the government, both parties, both houses of Congress, every one of them, from the lowliest Democrat to the head fuck McConnell, right? They've all fucked us. They've all failed. It's just been a horrible, terrible failure. Money needed to go directly to people, and lots of it. And then more money needed to go directly to these businesses. No problem with that.
That's a lot more money.
Yeah.
Like even the $1,200 payments. What do you think?
Just make it, print it, and give it to them.
What do you think most people make? What's the average salary? And it's not a quiz. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
40,000, 70,000,
50,000. I would think it's lower. So let's say it's
40
that's
or
about
50.
The
poverty line now.
I know. Yeah, and it varies. If you have multiple people in your household, but whatever the number is, $1,200. Are you making
$40,000 in LA or for $40,000 in Kentucky?
So $1,200 that gets you a week, right? 2 weeks maybe that you can hunker down. And in a lot of places, people have been asked to hunker down a lot longer than that. And the people who own these businesses, they spent money to comply, to buy additional equipment. And then, they're fucked. Even, it's so funny, with the PPP money, restaurants were the first to get the money. And then remember, there was a lot of dialogue in Congress how that had changed and how you could spend the money. But they were told, you have 8 weeks to spend it. And then they're like, well, wait a minute. We're not allowing us to open. I can't open my doors and bring my people back. How am I supposed to spend it? And they're like, oh, yeah, we didn't think of that.
I don't know. Talk to the Republican Senate that set that up.
Well,
and here's the thing. I just don't have that much sympathy. I own and ran a small business. I have sympathy. I have empathy, but frankly, I don't
Do you
have
have
that much
care?
sympathy.
Or have you run out of that?
Yeah, I'm running out of care. But here's the thing. Small business owners as a group are the richest people in the country. And so you just
Capitalism, baby.
Quit winding my
Capitalism at its finest.
business owners. Some whiny bitch whose restaurant is not going to make it. I just don't care. We don't need restaurants. We don't need beer and brats. We don't need any of that shit. Fuck them.
Brats.
Brats? Whatever brats, whatever they are, whatever.
As a non-drinker, quick tangent here. As a non-drinker, would you soak brats in beer to cook them?
Yes, yeah, I have no problem eating any kind of alcohol. And,
you'll eat a rum cake.
Yeah, that's right. I'll have to. Debbie's made a couple of rum cakes of late. Now the last one, I didn't get any of, and thank God, because I think it might have threw me off the wagon because it was so. Just the smell of it enough was giving me hallucinations. So, all right. So this is all heavy shit. It's just part of it. The pandemic. Everybody's tired of it. I'm tired of it.
Can I make you more angry with Dr. Birx?
I think it's really important that every single person understands that the way this virus is spread is if you're with anyone indoors without a mask, that's a viral spreading opportunity. If you're outdoors and hugging and kissing individuals, that is a viral spreading opportunity. We have to really understand how contagious, how infectious this virus is. And it's really important at this moment in time that everyone understands also how much virus is out there. There isn't a state without increasing cases right now except Hawaii.
Which I'm going to go to in super spread, by the way.
So this is where we find ourselves, and we have to listen right now to what we know works, which is mass physical distancing, washing your hands, but not gathering. You cannot gather without mask in any indoor or close outdoor situation.
I think what people are fed up about is they're being told what to do. And in her words, you can't do this, you can't do that. I don't think people are dumb. I don't think people disagree with what she's saying as far as how much of the virus is out there and how fast it spreads. I just think they don't like being told what to do. Maybe. I mean,
that is too fucking bad.
But the point is, Mike, that's why it's spreading. If we all lived underground, there would be no spread because there wouldn't be face-to-face contact. There'd be no group interaction. There wouldn't be hugging and kissing and orgies in the street or whatever she's saying. There would just be nothing. But the fact that we're human and we're all out and we're social creatures, it's going to spread. So, I don't know, dude. I mean, people are doing what I have said from the beginning.
I guess I can be thankful you're not my doctor.
What would I tell you if I was your doctor?
Huh?
I would tell you if I was your doctor to take care of yourself. Think about the situations you're putting yourself into because it's out there. People are out there. Like when you go get gas, do you wear gloves on the pump and wash your hands afterwards?
Why would I wear gloves? I wash my hands afterwards, but why would I wear gloves on the pump? Why would I wear gloves to do anything?
Well, I don't. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, if I'm going to pick my nose, it's not going to matter whether I got a glove on or not. I mean,
when I would think if you pick your nose and you're going to eat the booger, you'd not want to taste the glove, right?
Well, I mean, latex not that good, but here's the thing with gloves. I mean, I see people too. The place I do go where other people are is the supermarket, right? And so you see everything from, some big fat white guy with his butt crack hanging out of the back of his pants. And it's not me I'm talking about.
Of course not.
And and then his mask.
Shoe check. What are you wearing today? What shoes?
Socks.
What shoes? Okay, not your New Balance.
I'm inside. I'm not supposed to wear anything inside here. This is the no shoe zone. If I went out, I'd wear my New Balance today. But I mean, you see everything, every version of it, from to the little old lady who's got a smock on and, elbow high gloves. And then she's got a mask and she's got a visor and, the whole 9 yards. And you're like, okay, well, are you planning to put your entire elbow into your mouth or what's going on? Look, it's just as simple. Just wear a mask so you try to cut down on the amount of particulates that you can breathe in. But I'm going to tell you right now, if someone with COVID comes up and has a coughing fit in front of you, you're going to get it. You're going to breathe those in. They're going to come in through your shitty mask.
Yeah, that's probable.
Unless you're running around with a N95, which I haven't seen for 8 months, except for the ones I've got stashed in my truck for when things get really bad.
That's probable. But what you just said is important. Just wear a fucking mask when you go out, but live your life. You got to live your life, dude. That's what I'm saying.
No, but the point that I was going to follow through to was, even in the supermarket, I'm just passing these people, even if they're blowing out virus, by coughing and it's coming out the side of their mask or something. I'm not standing there in one place anywhere close to them. And so this nonsense with bars and restaurants and any kind of gathering that's more than a couple of people just needs to be avoided for a short period of time. So we can bring down the infection rate, get the fucking vaccine here. And we're just talking until like probably June or something next year. And then
that's another 6 months.
It's going to be pretty much over, right?
And that's the thing is people are just, number one, I don't want to say they've been lied to.
I'm so sick of whiny fucking complaining Americans. Just sick of it.
Well, they're not complaining. They're finally just doing. They're finally living their lives and deciding for themselves how much is enough. I mean, here's the other thing.
Well, then when they break the law, they should be prosecuted. When these fuckers open their restaurant, when they've been told to shut down, they need to pull their license, take their liquor license away,
in some cases
their
that's happening,
license, and put them in jail.
Well, listen, that's not going to happen in California when we're letting people out of jail, when our jails are overcrowded, and that's a place where it was identified as a COVID spread hub.
Force them to go to a Trump rally in another state.
I mean, you know what, though? There was a time that the reason why those restaurants and bars were allowed to open is because case counts were low and hospitalizations were low. So it was still, the risk was always the same.
It was always stupid.
It was always a place where it could spread. But if you go all the way back to the news about this vaccine, and I think your timeline is correct about June before we maybe see some normality.
It's always been June. No, Travis, from the...
It's never. Right? It could have been June.
It's always been June.
It's never been 2024.
Well, I mean, it's not impossible. I mean, the way that vaccines have been developed for non-pandemic situations tends to run 3 or 4 years.
That's what we've always heard.
They have all the time, but when things really, when they really got on it, they said, "Hey, listen, it's not going to be, it's not going to be Easter, right? We're not going to have vaccines by Easter. Hey, it's not going to be Christmas."
When the reason, because the strategy never involved a vaccine. I think we all were prepped from the very beginning that a vaccine could take years, and so therefore the cases will subside on their own with enough restrictions that we'll be able to open up without a vaccine.
Here's the number that, spreading false information is part of the problem.
It's not false. There was a lot of unknowns in the beginning.
Well, here's the number I heard from the very beginning. It's going to take 18 months to get a vaccine. So go back to March and do the math. March next year. Yeah, it's a little faster than that, right? So that should be fine. But here's the thing. You get some things done, you get, the numbers go down, and then you just undo everything and let everybody go crazy, all the while continuing to talk shit about the whole thing being a fucking farce and a fake from the top on the national level, and dickhead going around running these multi-thousand person rallies with no masks or anything, all that together, and then that begins to surge the numbers back up, just like they were told. And so I don't know, for me, it's like, hey, shut the shit down, take the hit, make the sacrifice, and just hold on until the vaccines get here in 18 months. But nobody could do that.
You can't do it.
18 months.
You can't. You actually physically can't do that because that would cause irreversible damage. So you can't. We don't live in a vacuum. We don't live in a bubble. There's no way that would work.
Doesn't change the Travis. This doesn't change the fact that sometimes you just have to do what you have to do, right? Some things are just the way they are. I mean, the fact that you don't want to do it, yeah, it was, but not a song I want to remember. The fact that you don't want to do it doesn't mean we're not doing it. I mean,
it's not just me.
What that means.
I just think the whole thing is backwards, and there will be something. There's another Burke's
Well,
clip.
you're gonna get on the other side of this thing. You're gonna look back. There's gonna be 350,000 dead people from this, and you're gonna think back and go, "Wow, it's really a shame that we were so fucking selfish and self-involved."
I won't think
that we couldn't. Well, but this is what people will think. This is what the world will think, and whether you think it or not, it's going to be the truth. You're going to look back on this and go, wow, we let 350,000 people die. And not to mention, that is going to leave probably 1 million people with permanent lung damage from this disease, the ones that recovered. And none of it had to happen, or very little of it had to happen. And all because we're just too goddamn selfish.
Well, that's certainly one point of view. I think history will ultimately tell another version of that, because I think nobody was going around coughing on innocent people. The reason why 350,000 or whatever the number ends up being could be that. I think some estimates are calling for 400,000 by maybe even June or before that.
Yeah,
but it's because people were mingling with one another.
Somehow you think that's acceptable. Because to not have that, we have to shut down some shitty restaurants?
Here's what I think. This is not the Black Plague. If it's 400,000, it's a high number. It still won't be the Spanish flu number, but it doesn't matter, right?
It doesn't have to be the Spanish flu.
There will be another something in our future.
Oh my God, we went to war for 17 fucking years in another country. Over 3,000 people that died. What in the hell are we talking about, dude?
There will be
hundreds of thousands of people die.
Mike, the reason are you talking about 9/11 or Pearl Harbor?
Well, I'm talking about 9/11. Pearl Harbor was yesterday.
Yeah, forgot about that. But you're right. We went to war for fewer cases, but that was an act of terrorism. This is a biological threat, right? This isn't a terrorist attack. So we went to war with terrorists and other countries who were attacking us over a smaller number of people, and more lives were lost in those wars. This is a virus, and nobody's deliberately going on old people and coughing on them.
We've lost 3,000 people in the Afghanistan campaign. We've killed 100,000 civilians there ourselves,
right?
Through our actions, right? Because 3,000 people were killed. 3,000 people are dying a day from this, and what I hear you saying is that we shouldn't be doing anything. We should just let it roll. Just
what I
go
think
do whatever the fuck you want to do. Don't make any sacrifice. Don't care. Don't worry, and just go do whatever you're going to do. Nobody cares if 3,000 people a day are dying, which is about what it is right now.
I mean, those aren't the words I'm using, but here's the difference. 3,000 people die in a terrorist attack. Those are innocent people in a skyscraper or on a military base or whatever. And a plane crashes into a building. What can you do? You need your government to protect you against that terrorist organization, because they're going to try it again, which in the case of 9/11, they tried it before on the World Trade Center buildings. And then they succeeded by crashing airplanes into it. So then we go to war. But a virus, your government can't protect you from that. They can't drop a plastic bubble over your house. You have to decide, I got to not go out in the world and breathe this shit. At some point, only you can prevent forest fires. Or something like that.
Well,
I don't know, dude.
With that kind of logic, I don't follow it. I don't agree. I don't think that there's any way you can sit back and watch, the better part of 400,000 people die that didn't need to die. I mean, do I give a shit? I don't know any of them. So I really don't care. I mean, do you think this affects me any more or less than 9/11? I didn't know a single person in the World Trade Center,
mm-hmm.
right? And so from that aspect, I don't really care. But the idea of how decisions are made, and when I hear this logic, 3,000 people were killed in 9/11, so that justified billions of dollars, more deaths, almost an equivalent amount in military deaths. 100 times that amount in civilian deaths in Afghanistan and what's the other jagoff country
Iraq.
over there? Iraq, and all of that bullshit, and the fake war in Iraq, mm-hmm. and all of that nonsense too. So I don't get it. I mean,
it's because
if the response is appropriate to the, to the severity of the situation, then this is fucking ass backward. I would think if
not.
somebody killed 400,000 Americans, we would spend all of our treasure and quite a few of our young people, young enough to fight, and obliterate a country that did that. But we're not doing anything.
Because a country didn't do this to us. I'm not one of these people that's saying, like Trump, China did this to try to fuck us. Yeah, there are things. I know people, and so do you, who will not get it, who are in the susceptible age group, who will not get sick. And do you know why? Because they're literally living in a bubble. They won't leave their house. They won't have people come visit, even family. They're taking it seriously with well, you're not even supposed to congregate with anybody, but...
Yeah, but they're not the people that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the rest of the people.
I get it, but those people are getting it, Mike, not because somebody is sneaking in at night, a cat burglar, and blowing the Covida on their head. It's because they're living their life, and they're going to places where they're getting it. So they can avoid that. They can avoid that, is what I'm saying. That's the difference.
I don't understand. Sorry.
What do you know? I'm not trying to make you agree with me. I'm just saying that those people can do something about it. Whereas if a terrorist organization flies a plane into the building you're working in, well, you have no control over that unless you didn't go to work that day. So I think that's the difference. But, what I was starting to say is there will be a time in our future where I think there will be another pandemic, something far worse, maybe the Black Plague, like we were led to believe this was going to be, something far worse where we're going to have maybe bodies in the streets. And we got to learn from this as far as...
What are you going to do then?
Well, that's the question. That's the question.
Well, I mean, I can tell you right now that past behavior is the best prognosticator of future behavior. So I would assume that when a much worse pandemic comes, and it's coming...
It's coming. So think about this. They say
that you'll advocate the same reaction, and it'll be absolutely horrific.
Well, here's what I can tell you. There was a time when we were all told this was the Black Plague. I thought I had to check myself and say, okay, man. I mean, I wore a mask. There was a couple of times I remember wearing gloves. There was a couple of times I remember not seeing certain people. Because I was scared, I thought, man, this is pretty wild. And then I'm far past that now, but there will come a time when that does happen. And so what do? I don't know. I really don't know. But here's what they're saying as far as the economic recovery worldwide. This could take years. What happens if the actual deadly virus comes before that time, before we have, our legs under us? What do we do then? I mean, I think I use this example. I think government's overreaction, in my opinion, to this whole thing is like trying to kill a fly with a hammer. Well, what happens when we actually need the hammer for something major and we don't have the resources? I don't know. And there's other countries, that don't have the financial backstop to do certain things. I was on the phone with the South Africans earlier in the week, and I was asking them because, certain places around the world are starting to get the vaccines. I think the UK is inoculating this week.
Today.
Yeah, today. And the South Africans were saying that they think they're going to get maybe half of the original amount that they had allocated for because they don't have the money. Their government doesn't have the money.
They should check and see if they can get the doses that Trump turned Pfizer down for a few months ago in June.
Well, yeah. Where is that going?
When they offered another 100 million doses, he said, "No, we're not going to commit to that."
Yeah. So where did that go?
Would you know where did it go? Went somewhere else, probably in England right now.
Yeah, because that was in the news, right?
What's going on? Look, I'm sick of COVID. What's going on with Ethiopia?
With the genocide there and civil war and everything else?
Yeah, I mean they were in the news today, so
they've been in the news.
That's close to your folks in South Africa, right?
Well, it's on the African continent, but it's pretty far away.
Well, aren't you tracking the African continent news? Because more than I am, because I just heard that. What the hell was it? Ethiopia? I can't even remember now. I know that they've had a huge, diaspora. I mean, lots of refugees out of the country and this and that. But of course, they're calling on, they're calling on the United States to try to broker peace. But we're not home, so it doesn't matter.
Hello,
Ethiopia.
I'm not following it as much as I should. I have seen it's been going on for a while, but despite what you may think, the African continent is a pretty large landmass. And when I do go to South Africa, just from the southern point in Cape Town to Durban is like a 2-hour flight. So I think Ethiopia is another, 6 or 8 hour
not part
flight?
of the game. Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. We don't look, I can tell you right now that the current administration doesn't give a shit about any shithole countries in Africa. Rather,
where do you come down on this as far as just your opinion? Do you want us to be more isolationist or?
No, I don't think isolationism has never paid off for us. Some of the worst situations in history and the greatest losses of life and stupidity have resulted from our different times that we have played around with isolationism. You can't make it alone. This country can't make it alone. We're big, yeah, but it's just the world is getting smaller. And if it isn't a biological threat, then it'll be some other political threat. I mean, we need allies, we need allegiances. I think that the North American Treaty is probably the most important, alignment that we've ever had, and we've lost sight of it. We don't understand how important it is. I think everything Trump did to try to weaken NATO was anti-American. I mean,
so if a country like Ethiopia comes to us for help, what do you do?
Well, I mean, it depends. I don't know. Here's the thing. I was hoping to get a little enlightenment from you. I don't know if Ethiopia as a country is, a democracy that's taking care of their people and has empathy for the poor. It's not most of the African continent, not exactly rolling in extra money. So, I don't know anything about Ethiopia, to be honest with you. So I don't think I can answer that. I will tell you that if they're the good guys and there are bad guys that are
evildoers,
doing what's happening. What is typical in Africa, right? What's typical? Women and children are raped and slaughtered wholesale. Men are either killed outright or forced to join in military situations they don't want to be in. And at the top, there's always some grifter, there's always some black Trump at the top of these countries taking in the money and stealing them blind.
That happened in South Africa.
Yeah, most of these countries are kleptocracies, and the person at the top only has one mission, and that's to get as much fucking money out of that country as he can, and then take off and go live in Saudi Arabia or some other fucked up place that Trump is allied with. So, yeah, we need to get back to having allies. We need to establish our commitment to NATO. We need to quit crying about the money, for fuck's sake. Prices are low. Wars have been few and far between, all things considered, all because of NATO, right? None of that stuff happened for free. We invested billions into rebuilding our enemies after the Second World War, and it was the best thing we ever did. And if the idea now is that we're going to engage in military action in countries and then just bail out and just and then use like this. And here's the other thing. You want to really get me pissed off? I don't know how much time we got left.
Yeah, let's get you pissed off.
Let's talk about the horse shit that Trump is doing in Afghanistan and fucking around with the military,
pulling the troops
drawdowns. Yeah, I mean,
but doesn't everybody support that? The Democrats support that.
Nobody supports willy-nilly withdrawals that leave half our people there without the support they need. I mean, Trump talks a lot of shit about loving the military, but he doesn't. He doesn't care.
Yeah,
he couldn't care less.
So are you saying because he's a lame duck, he shouldn't be doing anything, or you don't support pulling the troops out?
Well, I don't support pulling the troops out in this manner, and in no way, shape, or form would I support Trump doing anything at this stage on that magnitude of world politics. That's just not how it's done in this country, Travis. When there's an election and there's the period between the election and the inauguration, you're just not supposed to be doing this kind of stuff. He's doing everything that he's doing, and many, many things. I can't list them all off, but these troop drawdowns are right at the top, just to fuck Biden up. And in the process, he's leaving us much less safe. This non-cooperation, this non-cooperation on the transition, that's criminal, right? They should go after him for that. That alone, you realize that non-cooperation on the transition is endangering your children's lives.
They should. I agree with you there. I don't know if I would use the word criminal, but there should be. Biden should have.
Trump, criminal. Either way, you can interchange them any way you want.
But Biden should have the secret codes and all that shit, and he should have the news briefs and everything else that's going on. And if there is supposed to be a drawdown of troops, there should be a coordinated effort to where the Biden team could, agree to that.
How about once Trump is escorted out of the Oval Office on the 20th, should we not pull his security clearance?
Yeah, we should.
We should, huh?
Yeah,
because he is a fucking huge risk.
What do you mean? Does he get to keep it?
Yeah, every president keeps it.
Well, to a certain degree. I remember when I was doing my clip hunting. I think, God, what was it? Oh, Hillary was being asked about the Osama bin Laden assassination, and they either were about to go in or they had just gotten him. And I guess it's protocol. Maybe this has to go with what you're saying about the security clearance, that Obama was on the phone. He was calling the living former presidents to inform them about bin Laden. And when he gets to Bill Clinton, he says, hey, maybe Hillary already told you this, and Bill says, Hillary told me what? What are you going to say? Because Obama assumed that Hillary was, telling her husband things, but she wasn't. But apparently there was some type of clearance given to the former presidents that they were going to get some type of clearance. So I wonder at what level that is,
Here's my personal opinion. Hillary hasn't spoken to Bill since Monica sucked him off and dripped it on her dress.
Could be, man.
Sorry out there. Sorry, folks. So there's that.
But I would agree with you that if there is any type of
Trump's a maniac. He's a huge security threat.
He would sell the codes to somebody.
He's in debt. He's in debt that we have failed to.
He would sell them to the Russians. I came across some wild shit. I came across a video of Vladimir Putin, which everybody remembers the shirtless pictures of him riding the horse and whatever. He's like that Old Spice commercial where it's like half horse, half man.
He likes to ride. Yeah, he likes to ride bareback. Thank God. I mean, you can say this for Trump and all the bad things I've said about him. The piece of shit never takes his shirt off, and thank you for that.
But have you seen the Trump picture of him? I don't even know if it's real, from a long time ago, playing tennis in like a white one piece. He has like a camel toe in the front. It's gross.
Trump?
Yeah, look it up, dude. It's weird.
God. Okay, I'm going to look it up. I'm looking it up right now. Camel toe?
Presidential
camel toe.
Presidential camel toe. But I also saw this video of Putin.
Hey, is that going to be the name of this episode?
Presidential camel toe. I think it is. You got it.
You might have to write that down.
Putin was doing
That's for you, Doug.
Like judo or something. Yeah, he said like Putin demonstrating his black belt judo skills. And I was like, all right, I'm into martial arts. I got to watch this. And I mean, obviously he was there, in a gym and wearing his gi and doing some takedowns, and a lot of judo is takedowns. And it's like, the guys, the training partners, they would have to be threatened, I'm sure. Like, whatever this fucking guy does, you jump, you fall. If he looks at you the right way, you better fall and do the move right, or you're going to be fucking killed. It looked terrible, though.
Right.
I mean, he's old, so anybody
You're sick.
Does he have?
They're saying he's sick, but
how old
does he have COVID?
How old is that dude?
I don't know. He's and I don't. I mean, they. I heard something about him being sick, and they debunked it pretty fast.
Well, he's got to be. Fuck, is he? He's not 70, is he?
Putin?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know how old he is.
Let's see if I can find out from how old is Putin? Question mark. All right, it should come up pretty fast.
You can just type
68.
in Putin age.
Putin age?
Yeah.
Well, I'm old. I have to spell it out. 68.
Now Google Trump tennis outfit or something.
Wow, this is a new low. Trump tennis outfit. I wish there was a way to show this to the.
I got an idea.
Okay. Oh yeah. Wow. Yuck.
Is that real? You think?
He's got a big ass.
Yes, he does.
Oh my God. Looks like my mom playing tennis.
It's pretty hideous, isn't it?
She's dead. Wow. That is that's incredible. That's incredible. Ugh. Oh man, I can't unsee this. Thanks,
I got an idea for that. So
are you trying to pay me back for being such an asshole about COVID? Oh my God. Don't show me I can see his underwear. It's disgusting. Ugh. I think I'm about to throw up.
The last COVID thing I'll say is, again, talking to the South Africans earlier in the week, they said to me, COVID is what it is, but it's not that big of a deal in the sense that, and he was being truthful, that life in South Africa is fucked up anyway. And even before the pandemic, it's such a beautiful country. It has such a rich and important history, but the South Africans live with, their unemployment before COVID was already like 30-something%. Their financial system is in ruins. Their credit rating is downgraded. There's poverty. There's, racial tensions like this country wouldn't even believe.
It's hit them hard. COVID has hit them hard, right?
Well, it has, and they've made decisions that you wouldn't want to have to make for financial reasons because they have no other way to see their way through it. But what they're saying is every day they face challenges and adversity, and they all have such positive attitudes because it's like every day there's another hurdle for them to overcome. So this is just yet another hurdle. And there wasn't a COVID conversation. He's not a denier, quote unquote, like me.
Mitch, American exceptionalism is a fucking joke. And so, they did a lot of the testing, they did a 30,000 person, and this was the one that they're doing now in England. They did
a trial,
30,000 trials there because it's so bad. Where you want to trial a vaccine where it's out of control, right? Because you want everybody in the study to have a good chance of being exposed to it so that you can tell, right?
Right.
So they went to South Africa, and of course that didn't sit well with every South African. They're like, why don't you just give it to us? Why are you using us as guinea pigs? Well, I don't have an answer to that. They go when they're developing a vaccine where it's out of control. And so South Africa happens to be the best place on the planet to run a COVID trial. So
well, and they're at Southern Hemisphere, so when you look at the map in the world as far as cases, it's just what you'd expect. They're in their summer right now, so their cases are lower versus what we have. So, but it'll be interesting to see when they get their vaccines and how that pans out for them. But what we need is, I've said this before, we need the fucking aliens. We need aliens to come down and really just change the subject and get us all to focus on something else.
The sad part about that is the subject's going to get changed. I'm afraid to figure out what that's going to be. You brought up, something that I haven't really let myself think about much, and that's what happens on the next round of this stuff. I'm surprised you can hear me at all.
What, another round of shutdowns or what? Or another round of...
I'm trying... what happens when the next... Here's one of the things I'm worried about. So let's just agree to disagree on some of the things we look at about COVID.
We should agree to disagree on everything. That's the fucking concept of the show.
It's okay.
The whole podcast is us disagreeing.
That's good. So, let's say the next one comes and it's worse by magnitudes, right? So, here's what I'm here, and I want your comment on this.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think is going to happen? So let's say another one comes, and I don't know what the twist will be because I don't have enough medical experience, but it won't be exactly the same, right?
Aren't you Dr. Watkins?
Yeah, I am, but I'm a podiatrist.
I won't ask you to repeat the comment I made to you the other day, but I thought you'd get a chuckle out of that.
No. So what happens if, let's say that, the shedding is 100 times worse, shedding the virus. So when you have no symptoms and you have you're positive for the next pandemic, and it's viral, and it for some reason sheds 100 times worse than COVID, which is not impossible at all. And it would really the only actions that could be taken until some kind of vaccine could be developed, if it could be developed. It's not ever a sure thing either. Would be more of the same, only more intense, right? What do you think people are going to do? I mean, because a lot of people are convinced that everything that's been done, everything that's being suggested that needs to be done is just all nonsense. And nobody should worry about it. And people should just do whatever they're going to do. And you just have to live your life. Is that how you expect the next one of these things to be handled by, let's just say, the American public? Because I don't really give a shit about the rest of the world in that sense.
How American of you?
Well, there you go. I mean, I'm American, and I don't.
I don't think. I don't think that people are saying, they don't believe what they're being told, and they don't believe that those things will work. I just don't think they want to do it because listen, we belabored this, but they're not dying. They're not getting sick. They don't know anybody who is. But you asked the question, what would happen if the real thing comes down, like the movie Outbreak or whatever the hell that was?
I didn't watch it.
I think that's going to be dangerous because I think you're going to have, people killing each other. I mean, listen, we don't make anything on our own. We don't make our own food. Most of us don't. We don't build our own cars, to bug out or go wherever we need to go. We don't make our own water. So, the whole prepping concept, there are people who are preppers, and some people have, storage. Other people have the extreme of underground bunkers. A lot of the rich and the famous build and buy these underground bunkers to prepare for an attack or something. Most of the population doesn't have that. So look at what happened when there's no fucking toilet paper. There was chaos. So if there's literally no food because everybody's dying, maybe livestock are dying, maybe the people who, the slaughterhouses, the food production facilities, the transportation, if the entire network actually shuts down because bodies are dying, man, then we really need the aliens. I mean, that's, what can I say?
Well, I mean, I guess one of the things that I'm concerned about is that we have wasted this opportunity to try and figure out. This is almost like a free run. I mean, you're going to come out of this with 400,000 people dead. That's not free, but the next one that comes, if we handle it in the same manner with the same lack of leadership across the board, it's going to be 3 million people dead, 5 million people. And we've got 350 million people. So the idea that we could have a pandemic that takes the lives of 5 million people, and in that case, no one in this country will go untouched.
Well, here's why I like to get you off of the thinking of focusing on the leadership and the lack of leadership and the direction and all that, is because if something like that did happen, even in the current pandemic, America is not the world. I mean, there is other countries out there. So we're not the only ones with that response. We're not the only ones, the rioters and the protesters and all of that. There are those factions all around the world. So if we do have those numbers you were saying, I'm assuming you meant just in the U.S., if we had something that killed 3 to 5 million people in the U.S., what's the global number going to be? I mean, it's catastrophic, right? So the entire world would collapse. There would be no civilization. There would be nothing. No food, no water, no transportation, no logistics, no nothing. It would be the equivalent of the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, because you would literally choke off the production, the engine that fuels the world. So that's what would happen. And I don't personally think that, what could we have done differently this time around to prepare for that? If something like that happened, there's not enough. We could have
learned something.
Yeah, you know what we could have learned? Take the cyanide pill. You're going to need it.
Take
the cyanide pill under your tongue. You're going to need it to say goodbye.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm not ready to accept that the next pandemic that hits is the end of the world. I think I'm gonna.
It's like these movies. There's all kinds of catastrophe movies. Usually they are surrounding like a natural disaster, or sometimes they're an alien attack where the rich. What's that one? I think it's a John Cusack movie. It's like the end of the world or something. I forget what it's called. And all the rich have like this token or something that gets them into the secret club, and they fly into this spaceship to ride off or whatever. That's what's going to happen. You're going to have those
a whole bunch of movies.
Yes, those that can do that are going to flee, and the rest of us are just going to fight with each other.
That was
cannibalize each other.
That was the plot of Kingman, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, wow.
Here's what I think we need to learn from. I was watching. I talk about aliens, but I am kind of fascinated by that. I was watching this other show. I think it's like on the Science Channel or something, How the Universe Works. And it's narrated by Mike Rowe. You know him? The Dirty Jobs guy. Remember the show Dirty Jobs?
Yeah, I remember the show. I didn't ever watch it, though.
Well, everybody loves Mike Rowe. He's got that, cool voice. But he narrates this show. And it's a whole series. Most of it's based on astronomy and, the solar system and other planets. And there's a lot of talk about, certainly Mars these days. And was there life on Mars and water and all that stuff? And it's fascinating what these fuckers know. I mean, people are so smart, what we can know and what we can learn in 2020 and what we will learn in the future. And there's some scientists that are saying, in the next 20 years, it's not unrealistic that we'll go to Mars. So, I thought you were younger than you said you were, so I don't know how much you will see in your lifetime. But in my lifetime or my kid's lifetime, I don't think it's unreasonable that we might see people flee this planet and try to inhabit somewhere else. Do you?
Oh, I think it's the worst. I think it's the worst plan ever.
To leave?
Well, I mean, here's my problem with that kind of a thing is like, okay, well, you know what? Just don't worry about the pandemics. Don't worry about organizing any kind of effective response to any kind of crisis. Don't worry about climate change. Don't worry about what we're doing. Don't take any responsibility for anything. Just plan on getting on a fucking spaceship and going to Mars. It's the worst plan ever. It may never fucking happen. You know how monumentally difficult it would be to ever go to Mars, period, let alone.
But not impossible.
Nothing's impossible. You could grow a fucking mortar out of your forehead and blow somebody up across the street.
Why not? You can make ears from rat skin.
but
if we had people go to another planet or an international space station and there was a pandemic down on Earth, those fuckers wouldn't come down to help. They'd just stay up there.
Well, I just, I guess this is, I just, how I feel about it, Travis, is this.
Are you anti-science?
This has been no. This has been a test
of the emergency broadcast system.
Yeah, and we've failed it. That's my opinion on the whole, on everything to do with this stupid COVID.
I think it's a test also, but I think I didn't even want to go back to COVID. I didn't want to get you angry, but I think it's a test for people to decide how much they're going to tolerate from their government. That's what I think. Are you anti-science? Are you anti-people going to other planets? I'm not asking if you would go.
No.
I wouldn't go.
No, I'm not. Hey, would I go to another planet?
No, but
it need to be a lot more. It need to be a lot farther along than anything I can foresee in my future. I can tell you that.
Well, what's wrong with that? Let's say that in future generations, we know the climate is changing. We've talked about this. Is it man-made? Is it not? What can we do about it? There's a lot of political talk in there. How much time we have left? Irreversible damage, all that shit. But let's say there's a period in time where the climate is changing, man-caused or not, irreversible or not, where humans can't survive on this rock anymore. Wouldn't you want another option to go somewhere else in the solar system?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and there is no doubt that will be the case. I mean, we will only live on this planet for a finite amount of time. I mean, there's an end point. I don't know what it is yet. I'm not predicting it. I'd like to see it be as far out as possible, and so that I won't be here. But when I would think that people that are going to travel to Mars or some other planet for whatever reason, can do so in some kind of, I mean, look, covered wagons were a fucking terrible idea. That should have waited, until we had cars. So, or build the train. Don't come out here in a goddamn wooden wagon pulled by a bunch of horses that you're probably going to end up eating instead of having them drag your ass out to California. And by the time you get to California, you're wearing your horse coat, because you killed your horses and you ate them.
And that goes along with your chinchilla boots.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's try to put that off as long as we can. So
I think it's great though. All I kept thinking about is, I mean, listen, there's some realistic shit about what these satellites are picking up and what we're seeing from Earth and what we can see from outer space. It gets crazy into, where even in our solar system, another planet could potentially live or survive because it's not in the impact zone of other shit flying around in the atmosphere or whatever. And but all I kept thinking, because I really buy into this, not necessarily aliens, but there could be. I mean, I'm not saying there's not, but all I kept thinking is, there's no fucking way that Jesus is real. I mean, when you watch all this science shit.
We are. I think everybody's figured out that we are both agnostic, minimally,
to say the least.
If not,
I mean, Jesus was real because a crazy guy, whatever, drinking ayahuasca out in the desert. Jesus.
Yeah.
Telling everybody he's the son of God. But you watch this shit about, space and whatever Mike Rowe's telling me, I'm believing it. There's no way.
That was Burning Man year one.
Right.
Okay,
exactly.
Oh my God. Religion. Wow. That's it coming up, folks, on Couch Funeral, religion.
And why it sucks.
Oh my God.
I'm not knocking it.
Awesome.
I mean, people should be religious if they want to be. My kids are in a little, I don't know what it is even, because I'm not
Sunday
religious.
School?
Well, they're in a school, a little, what is it? I'm supposed to know. I guess I'm supposed to be religious to allow them to go there. But they go to chapel once a week and they learn about Jesus and they sing Jesus songs.
It's called Sunday School.
Yeah, but they don't go on Sunday.
Oh, they don't go on Sunday?
No, they super spread every day. So they go in person.
Oh, where do they go? Let's not talk about it.
No, it's a preschool. It's preschool. It's a TK, whatever.
It's a religious-based preschool.
Yeah,
right?
so they're, so my daughter comes home and she'll sing about Jesus.
Presbyterian,
something
Baptist,
like that. Yeah.
Some white extension religion, right?
Whatever I don't know what it is, but they're singing all the Jesus stuff. And, there will be a day very soon where my daughter says, how come you don't talk about Jesus, Daddy? Or how come we don't go to church? So I'm going to have that conversation with her. But I've always told her,
tell me,
sticking with the theme of our podcast, and she even has a T-shirt that I bought her that says, think for yourself. Think for yourself. So
when you want to talk more about that, or you actually, that day comes and you actually have that conversation with one of your children, tell me so that I can tell you the story about how I got in trouble and nearly suspended. Let's see, this would have been 1962.
You couldn't say anything bad about Jesus back then.
Well, I went to the library. So every public school has a little library, right? They take one of their larger rooms, they put some, I think this was purpose built to be a library. And then, so I get the Bible off the shelf. I take it up to this is second grade. Yeah. Second grade. I take it up to the librarian. She's a little old lady, used to be the first grade teacher. And then she switched over to being a librarian. And I'm like, hey, how come this is in the nonfiction? And she's like, oh my God. And then next thing you know, my
lashings.
I'm in the principal's office and they're calling my parents and, they're talking to me and, hey, you got to knock that shit off. And I'm like, look, you got to prove to me that any of this nonsense in here. I had already dropped out of Sunday school. I just got up and left one Sunday and went home. And my parents were like, what are you doing home? Like, I quit. I was in third grade. So I quit. This is it. I can't listen to more stories about donkeys and nonsense.
It is crazy. I mean, it is. You want your kids to figure that out on their own. I mean, it's a fine line. Even like Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, we're doing that shit.
Well, somehow I managed to get a set of morals installed by third grade because I didn't read religion but I think, I didn't need religion past the third grade to develop a code of morals. And And so somehow through osmosis and from television and culture in general in the late 50s and early 60s, I picked up some kind of, morality. And a lot of it is religious based.
I know.
Right? I mean,
there's some lessons there.
Look, I'm not as much as I'm not a fan of practicing religion, period. And I just marvel at the stuff I hear people say about religion, especially from people that claim to believe it all.
The healers and shit.
Well, just the average Joe. It's just your relatives that actually go to church and
I know.
think it's a thing and think if you don't take Jesus in your, and this is from a totally Christian perspective, right? I don't have much exposure to other religions, and they think you're going to hell if you don't accept Jesus and go through all this stuff. I just don't know that. I don't think that I would recommend the whole world. Like if I could go like this, like Thanos in the what's the Marvel thing with the movies where Thanos has the power and he clips his fingers and half the people are dead. If I could clip my fingers and make everybody understand that there's no God, I don't think I would do it, because I think that's probably part of the glue that's holding things together, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't think that at this moment that we are sophisticated enough as a group. And when I say that, I mean human beings to function in this world without religion. Definitely some of us are, and I know that sounds terrible. Some of us aren't. And
it's an interesting point, because of all the chaos and disagreement that we have now with religion. Imagine if people, watched Mike Rowe and they figured out, fuck, religion isn't real.
I don't know what would happen. I mean, so many people only stay.
I'm not saying that Mike Rowe believes that, by the way.
Yeah, so many people only color in between the lines because of religion. And without it, they just think about your youngest kid. You put a crayon in his hands. He doesn't really have the concept of what the lines are there for. He just fucking scribbles all over the page, right? That's how the whole world would be acting, right? Because most people are only barely staying in the lines because of their religion, because they think, well, if I go crazy and start killing people, I'm going to hell or I'm going to be punished. Without that, I'm not sure that the less sophisticated populations among the world would be able to deal with it.
That's an interesting observation. So what you're saying is if people realize that I'm just going to go in the ground and the worms eat me, that what the fuck? Might as well kill this guy. Nothing's going to happen to me.
Look, I think for those of us that are not, have, opted out or never bought in or bought in and got out or whatever it is, we don't spend a lot of time thinking about that, to be honest with you, because it's scary as fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, so, and for those of us that are a little closer to finding out the truth about this than others, it's a little more scary. But I decided a long time ago that I was never going to have all the answers. I was never going to know everything. And if I'm not going to know everything, then there really is nothing that I have to know, that I, have to know the answer to. So I don't have to lie to myself that I have the answer about what happens on the other side. A lot of people do. They just, without it, they fucking go insane. They just go crazy. And they're like, oh my God, it's all meaningless. It's nothing. I'm scared. It's all back. Right? So if I was talking to anybody out there,
don't hate
just
them.
Realize that, it is what it is. I think that I am totally open. I don't, and there's nothing. I mean, I think I pretty much reject all of the stereotypical stuff. I mean, God's not sitting in a big stone chair on top of some clouds and, all that shit. That's not happening. But is there stuff I don't understand? There is, and there always will be. And so the more we understand, the better. So, I think the thing I like about science, we talked about science for a minute, and for you, that's kind of grabbing you and taking you down the explore the other planets thing, because, frankly, you're young enough, you might actually see it. You might see the trip to Mars. I think that's probably a little.
But I'm not going, for the record.
You're not going? Why not? I thought you wanted to go.
No. I mean, Listen, Look how
Would
many.
you send your kids on it? Would you put your
I mean, if
kids
they
on the
want to,
bus?
but look how many plane crashes there are. I mean, there's got to be some spacecraft that's going to get incinerated trying to get to Mars. I don't want to be on that.
I think Mars is a one-way trip.
Could be.
I think that's a one-way deal.
But they got technology on. I was reading something else about this technology about engine development and what do you call it, like a scramjet, where it basically gets to the speed of sound and then it uses the shock wave of the speed of sound to propel it to the next range of speed, and it can keep doing that. That essentially would make, light
that
speed.
push you past the light speed.
Well, something like that. Like it's not far off that at least in a model or in a lab that they can develop technology that looks like that would work. So the shit's crazy what they can do.
I in our last podcast, if I'm remembering this right, we discussed the Concorde.
Yeah,
and you corrected my incorrect assumption that there was some time. There was some known time it would take the Concorde to get from San Francisco to New York, and you made sure I understood that. Hey, there's a fucking sonic boom associated with going the speed of sound, and so they never did it. And then our solution to that I thought was quite creative. You suggested that we just fly all over Canada,
right?
Because who gives a fuck?
Exactly. I mean, that's kind of the solution for most things.
Oh my God. Well, I'm getting a late call here.
Well,
hey,
let's call it a day, my friend. I got a headache. So
all right.
It was great as always, and we'll catch you next time, everybody.
Okay. See you guys.
Bye.